In this video, I'm breaking down the few basics of nutrition for body composition and how you can understand how all diets work the same way. So first things first, in order to get this aesthetic physique, in order to know where we're going for this aesthetic physique, we first need to know where we are. In order to understand where we're going for an aesthetic physique, all diets work the same way by losing body fat and helping build muscle or maintain the muscle mass you already have. But there's a lot of different starting points that we can go from where you're at to that aesthetic physique. For me, an aesthetic physique is not going to be something as huge and massive as like Arnold Schwarzenegger or Chris Bumstead, but still having similar low body fat percentage while having defined and a good clear amount of muscle mass on your body as well. I think the Statue of Hercules and even more so the Statue of David are great examples that we can strive towards to build a physique that we can maintain for life without using any sort of PEDs or other substances like that. And the underdog story of David and Goliath is just something we can all strive towards. And I love the idea of underdogs as well because underdogs work smart and hard while challenging the status quo and our typical ideas of how we can achieve certain ideals and certain standards of success. Again, success doesn't come from high highs and crazy achievements, but it just comes from being consistent with the basics, doing them well, and doing them over a long period of time. Moving on, once you understand where you are on this chart, if you're obese, you need to lose fat and build muscle. If you're skinny fat, you need to lose fat and build muscle as well. If you're just kind of overweight, you just need to lose fat. Maybe you already have a good amount of muscle mass, like a dad bod. But moving on, you still need to understand that these two factors of losing body fat and building muscle. But how do we build muscle? If you get stronger within certain rep ranges and certain exercises, like in a video that I've already covered, you will build muscle. It's as simple as that. Get stronger week after week, setting a small PR, 1 more rep than you did last week, 5 more pounds than you did last week, maybe a little bit more, like an extra second on a negative rep, more time under tension than last week. It's just about progressive overload and doing a little bit more than you did the last time. Now that we understand how to build muscle, to lose body fat, we need to understand how all diets work the same way. Food is measured in calories. Calories is just a unit of measurement of energy. How much energy is in this food? That's what a calorie is. Now you can get more specific with this and say per gram, 1 gram of protein has 4 calories, 1 gram of carbs has 4 calories, and 1 gram of fat has 9 calories. It's just another way to divide up and measure how different macronutrients, protein, carbs, and fats, has calories within them. Now diets themselves work by simply eliminating and reducing calories out of your diet. So very simple, if you just go on a balanced restriction diet and you start to use a little bit more portion control, you are simply eating less calories than what you normally did. By doing that, you put yourself on a calorie deficit. With a calorie deficit, you will lose body fat. Say if you're doing a keto diet, that takes out a whole macronutrient section of your diet, thereby reducing the calories that you're eating. So again, a keto diet, simply eliminating all of your carbs. If you don't eat carbs, you're just reducing the calories that you're eating. It's nothing fancy about the carbs themselves, it's just about eliminating and reducing calories in your diet. Similar with the low-fat diet, you're just eliminating another section of your diet. It's not about the carbs anymore, now it's about the fats. Again, it's just stripping away a section of your diet. And another example, one that I really enjoy, is using intermittent fasting. Well, instead of just focusing on a specific food group, what if we just take out a meal out of your day? Instead of eating 3 plates of food, now you're just eating 2 plates of food. Yeah, you're going to be eating less because you're eating 1 less plate. Now here's a little caveat. If you've ever been unsuccessful with a diet in the past before because you were just focused on, say, keto and it's only about eating high-fat foods and avoiding all the carbs, here's why you weren't successful with that diet. And back to the idea with calories. You need to be in a calorie deficit to lose body fat. If you weren't successful, instead of just simply eating how you were and just taking out the carbs, you overcompensated and ate more protein and fats than you did to kind of balance out how many carbs you were taking away from your diet. I think a very simple way to understand this is that instead of just eating just 1 tablespoon of peanut butter for a snack or something like that, you start eating like a cup of peanut butter. So again, overall, it's about the amount of calories you eat. It's not about specific food groups that cause you to lose fat. Similar thing, if you struggle to lose body fat on a low-fat diet, you probably just added an extra servings of carbs or proteins to overcompensate what you ate. If you didn't lose body fat, you weren't in a calorie deficit. Now, I think another thing to point out here is that with all these specific diets, you have to think about discipline and exercising self-control around the food choices that you make. If it is simply about the calories that we eat, we do need to exercise an amount of self-control over the food that we're eating. You can do this out of so many different ways, like all the diets we covered before, but every time you try to limit an intake, you're using self-control and using discipline. So if you're on a keto diet and you're trying to lose body fat, you have to think about using discipline every time you're eating one individual thing, making sure like, oh, there's no carbs in it. The reason why I like intermittent fasting so much is that it just, instead of all the decisions throughout your day, it could just be as simple as one decision: I'm not going to eat breakfast. And then most likely, if you aren't having any other emotional eating or other eating disorders, if you eat regularly for your other meals, you will most likely be in a calorie deficit simply by skipping breakfast. There is more nuance and more specificity around that to make sure you're actually in a calorie deficit, but in theory, it is as simple as that, making one decision throughout your day where I'm just going to skip breakfast and then eat regularly throughout the rest of the day. Overall, this is why I like intermittent fasting, because I think it is the method that allows you to use self-discipline and use self-control the least throughout your diet. And if you've ever read Atomic Habits, this is a very important argument made in throughout that book. The people that are most disciplined, the people who have the most self-control, are actually the ones who need to use it the least. So overall, the diet that you can use self-control and use discipline the least is the one you are most likely going to be successful over the long term. And in Atomic Habits, it's important to point out that we have a finite amount of self-control and discipline to use throughout every single day. So the least that we can use it, the more successful we will be, which is why whatever diet we can use self-control the least and use discipline the least, we will be most successful with. Before we move on, I'm taking a little break here just to say leave a like and comment down below so that way we can start to boost the algorithm for this channel. We are faced with so many public health problems. 2 out of 3 people in America today is overweight or obese. 6 out of 10 has a chronic illness. 4 out of 10 has 2 or more chronic illnesses. There's a lot of problems that it just seems like our standards for health have fallen below what I think it should be acceptable in society today. And if you've gotten value out of this video so far or other videos I've made in the past, please like and share this video so that way we can help raise not only our standards, but the standards of other people around us as well. Last little thing to point out is that I am going to be making a version of my coaching free for the first week here coming soon. So stay tuned for that, and it'll be kind of just laying out everything I've been talking about here and other topics around building muscle and helping build an aesthetic physique and helping cultivate a healthy life or a full life of living so that way you can truly live the life you want to. So, recap, all diets work the same way by eliminating calories and reducing the calories that you intake. It doesn't matter which approach you take, but it is important that you are in a calorie deficit overall so that way you can lose body fat by eating in a calorie deficit. I think intermittent fasting is one of the easiest ways to do this so that way you can use self-control and use discipline the least. That way you can be successful for long term and have a good aesthetic physique for life. And the reason why intermittent fasting uses discipline and uses self-control the least is because you're only making one decision out of your day and not eliminating specific food groups, but it's just simply about changing a lifestyle around you're just eating 2 meals and maybe a few snacks rather than having to worry about every food decision you make throughout your day. You're just making one decision. I'm going to skip breakfast. That's pretty simple. Now moving on, there's 2 last things you need to understand in order to build an aesthetic physique. How many calories do you actually need to eat? And then also why you need to prioritize protein in order to help you build muscle. So know how many calories you need to eat. I also like this very simple approach of just multiplying your body weight by these certain numbers if you're trying to lose fat to maintain or build muscle a little bit more easily. If you have a lot of weight to lose, like 20 or more pounds to lose, then use your goal body weight to multiply when figuring out what number you're going to use for your calories. The reason these simple equations work is because that your body and your muscle mass, your body mass, is a very important factor for how many calories you burn throughout your day. The only other things to consider is your activity level and then what food you're eating. If you really want to get specific with that, use a TDEE calculator. I'll have one linked down in the description below. But multiplying your body weight by one of these numbers will give you a calorie estimation that is very likely to work. If it doesn't work, you can fine tune it a little bit after about 1 or 2 weeks of eating at whatever number you get. Figuring out if you do lose weight, then you can keep doing that. If you don't necessarily lose weight, use one number lower and just kind of fine tune your approach from that way. But these simple equations do work and give you a very close estimation of how it can work. Again, success does not come from these very perfect, optimal, fancy tricks, but it just comes from being consistent with the basics and doing them every day for a long time. So it's not about finding out the perfect thing that works, but it's finding out what one thing does work and then repeating that over and over again every day. So take a guess, use one of these numbers, and then just give it a try for 1 or 2 weeks, and then you can fine tune your approach a little bit more. If you still have troubles with it, send me a message, leave a comment down below, and I can help you figure out your specific situation a little bit more easily. Now, the last thing to consider with your diet, if you want to still build muscle, maintain your muscle, you need to be eating protein. Quite simply put, if you don't eat protein, you aren't giving your body the resources it needs to build muscle. And it would make sense that if you are being very active and you're kind of in a calorie deficit, you're giving your body a reason. It's like, oh, I need to start burning down my own body mass in order to give myself the energy it needs. It would make sense to get rid of muscle first because muscle burns the most amount of energy per pound of mass. So if you're in a calorie deficit and you're being active, your body thinks, oh, if I get rid of muscle first, that means my body will now burn less calories and I'll be in less of a calorie deficit. So if you're working out intensely and you're getting stronger week after week and you're eating enough protein, your body will keep the muscle mass it has and maybe even grow some as well. The number one sign of you losing muscle mass is getting weaker in the gym or weaker in whatever activity you're doing. If you are getting weaker 2-3 weeks in a row, you need to be eating more protein for sure, and maybe just more calories and going on a diet break in order to give your body the time and resources it needs to recover and get back to maintenance. But very simply put, you can still build and maintain muscle mass in a calorie deficit if you're eating enough protein. If you're working out only 3 or 4 days a week, you can get away with around 0.8 grams per pound of body weight. You can get away with eating more than that, and out of all the macronutrients of fats, carbs, and protein is the best one to be eating more of in your diet. But if I weigh 160 pounds, then I'm going to multiply that by 0.8 and I get 128. So every day, at a minimum, I need to be eating 128 grams of protein. 128 grams of protein, if there's 4 calories per every gram of protein, that's about 512 calories. Out of my day, 512 calories of it has to be, at a minimum, protein. A few recommendations for protein is that 4 ounces of meat is going to be typically around 20-25 grams of protein. A protein powder is going to be about 20 to 30 grams of protein as well. 2 servings of a low fat-free yogurt is going to be about 20-25 grams of protein. I'll have some of these recommendations on screen, but at a minimum, you need to understand you need to get 0.8 grams of protein in per day. But remember, if you're getting weaker about 2-3 weeks in a row, you're using just a little bit less weight, you're doing 1 less rep than you normally do, that's a sign of you losing muscle mass, and you need to change things up, specifically with your diet and probably your sleep and recovery as well, in order to make sure that you are still getting stronger while in a calorie deficit. But these are the basics. Once I understand, here's my calories I need to eat in a day, here's how much protein I need to eat, I can eat whatever else I want so long as I'm underneath that calorie deficit per day and still lose body fat. This is how all diets work the same way. You're just in a calorie deficit while still maintaining protein and working out intensely and getting stronger week after week in the gym. If you still have any questions or you're confused about how this may work for you specifically, leave a comment down below. I will reply to every comment on this video. Other than that, I really hope this video helped. Again, we are faced with so many public health problems, and I think if we all just raise our standards a little bit more about what is our bare minimum that we can do every single day, we will live in a much healthier society. So other than that, I will just simply say keep at it, be patient with the calorie deficit. It will work, have faith that it will work, and be consistent with it every single day over a period of time, and you will find success. Because again, success just comes from doing the basics and doing them well, doing them over and over again. Remember, be on the lookout for a free week of coaching if you're interested in a little bit more specific help. I'm creating a mini course out of the first week of coaching so that we can understand specifically here's where you're at, here's where we need to go, and here's how you can improve on that. And then if you are interested, I will be offering coaching for a month-to-month basis and also creating a one-time fee program here in the near future. So stay on the lookout. But I hope this helped. If not, just give you a reminder to keep doing what you are doing. Other than that, get out of here. You'll see me in the next video, and take care.